Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to take a look at how the USE minis unfolded yesterday. In particular, I'd like to do a review of the YM and look at not only our TS3 sell here, but also look what happened at the low of the day and what unfolded after that. So as usual, we need to go to the 15-minute chart to start with. So let's just load the 15-minute chart, and as always we put our larger degree DP support and resistance zones on. We'll remember that the last pivot high was here, so this actually gave us a lovely resistance area up at this high that nailed the high of the day on the day before. But also I want to just go through how you place DPs on the charts and which pivots to use, because sometimes this can be hard to understand. If I zoom in a bit, normally what I do is I look at any pivot high, and I'll just remove that so it doesn't confuse the picture. Here's a pivot high, and I normally look at the last swing, which is this one, into the high or low. So I'd put a DP on from this pivot. So that would have placed a DP that basically came in at the open yesterday. Now of course the market went straight through that and kept on going down. So the question being now is, what pivot do we use next? Do we use this pivot here? And if we had have used this pivot here, you can see that this actually came in and gave us a decision point support here. However, I don't normally like to use every single pivot, because I normally like to use the last pivots that give an important change in trend. So let's place the DP on from here and see what we get. As you can see, that is very, very nice indeed, in that it actually caught this low absolutely beautifully. So let's go to the 3-minute chart and see where this could have actually led to a little bit of confusion, particularly on this first DP here. So let's go to the 3-minute chart now. And if I zoom out, you can see, I'll just take that. Well, actually that one was our first level. That was our first level, which you can see is not relevant because the market's gone straight through it. But our main one, you can see, came down here and caught the low of the day beautifully. So the only area that could have caused a little bit of confusion is this one here, because you could have thought that this was 15-minute decision point support and the market was rallying off here, therefore this was against the large degree trend and decided not to take it. Whereas in reality, the main 15-minute support was actually down here. So in reality, this one should not have really been on the chart. So I'll just take that off, go back to the 15-minute chart and just clarify that. I want to clarify this so I make sure that you understand this. So again, if I clear everything off and I start from scratch, the DPs we normally tend to do are off the last pivots going into swing high or low, which is this one here. So that would be our first decision point level. We then go back to the last major swing, in other words this one here, and then use that as a decision point level. We don't tend to do swings on every pivot. And also, to help you on this as well, because this is the YM, it's always worth going to have a look at the ES, because the ES tends to be what we call as the boss. So if we go to the ES and look at the 15-minute charts here, here you can see that high was nailed beautifully off that pivot, but I'll just take that off. So here you would have used the DP off the last swing into the high, which is this one. And as you can see, this is not relevant because the market gapped down and kept on going down. So you'd have taken this off. You'd have then gone back to this last pivot swing here. And as you can see, the ES hasn't reached it. So there wouldn't have been any pivot here to catch this particular low. So there'd be no support at this particular low on the ES. Therefore, you shouldn't really have had the same kind of support on the YM. Or if you had have done, it would have been a less important support. The only time when you would have put the next DP level on the ES is once this swing here had been created. And obviously this was created during the day. If I put the session breaks on, created during the day. So if I put the decision point on from here, you can see that this did indeed catch the low of the day on the ES and rallied up. So really the only support on the ES would have come in around about 12 o'clock midday. So let's go back to the ES and see how, sorry, the YM, and see how that would have then helped us. So let's go back to the 3-minute chart. So remember, the main support on the ES would not have come in until around about 12 o'clock midday, which actually, if I put the cursor on, is our main low here. So with this bearing this all in mind, it would have meant that this particular TS3 sell here would have been a good one to take. So let's place the analysis on. and as you can see, the market came down here to this first target and actually nailed the low beautifully. Standard trade management guidelines would have said come out at this target because the STF was weak, in other words not at the strength band, and that would have nailed a plus 4.2R profit pretty much at the low of the day. So what a great place to come out right at the low of the day there. My only PS on this is if you had been slightly worried about whether this particular trend here was against the new 15-minute uptrend, do the general guideline that I talk about, that if you're unsure, as soon as the market reaches the 100% initial risk level, which it did here, bring your stop to break even. So that's what you could have done if you were slightly worried that shorter term 15-minute support had come in here and you were against the trend. Once you got to the 100% initial risk level, bring your stop to break even. That way you're protected a bit quicker. And as such, you would then have still had been able to take this trade and come out there for a lovely profit. Interesting enough, if I just take the analysis off and keep our 15-minute DP on there and zoom in a bit, now let's go to the volume. Just look at this. This was actually a high volume VSA spike that came in right at this low. Interesting enough, this nailed the very low of the day. If I zoom out a bit, have a look at this rally coming up here. It looks like a lovely 5-wave sequence, but obviously we wouldn't have known that at the time. So if you were looking to take a trade with our VSA set up off the low of the day, your initial target would have been a DP off this pivot, because this is the last swing into the low. If you'd set up the risk reward off this particular pivot there, whoops, I need to do that a little bit better. Let's put the crosshairs on so I can get this nailed a bit better. It'll be there to there, up to there somewhere. Just drag that up at the right level. So your initial target would have been at this particular DP. However, as the market zoomed in, or as we basically zoom in and look at how the market unfolded, sorry, I'll do it like that so you can see it a bit better, unfolded as it was rallying up here, just look at this. If we put the Elliott wave intermediate on, you can see that this unfolded as a lovely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And guess what? If we look at that particular bar there, that was actually making a new high just above here. Again, if I put the cursor on, you can see that. There's the high there. This made a new move up above the high. There's our high volume VSA spike. The next bar reverses straight back down again, so you could have a good guess that basically professionals were now taking profit after this rally, and therefore the market dropped off into the close. So the sensible thing to do would have been to trail your stop just below the bar lows. Should have been locking in a nice 2.3-hour profit. This wasn't a clear and clean DP setup to go short, because it wasn't at DP resistance, but it certainly would have been a good one to look to manage any long trade a little bit more aggressively. So summing this up, what a day for MTPredictor on the YM yesterday. Here we had a beautiful TS3 sell at its high. Market went down, came right into our 15-minute DP support, which nailed the very low of the day. The market then rallied up like this beautifully in a 5-wave sequence to then come out here at the end of the wave 5 to nail pretty much the high of the day. And I can't really say any much more than that. It is absolutely amazing when you get levels like this that basically nail that pivot, that pivot, that pivot, and give you a roadmap to pretty much catch all the swings on the YM yesterday. So overall, it was a very, very good day yesterday. The only PS I'll say at the end is we did have an automatic sell set up here, which would have been in the direction of the STF red color here. So if you were a standard trader, you would have been looking at that. But as I've already been explaining, this was our larger main 15-minute support. Therefore, the trend was up. So that would have been a good one to avoid. So overall, a very good day for MTPredictor on particularly the YM yesterday.